Get some recording started here. Okay. I see somebody in the lobby, April. Good morning, Brad.
Good morning. Good morning.
Okay, Megan.
The Behavior Analysis Regulatory Board meeting is convening at 9:04 a.m. on July 14th, 2023. This meeting is being held by MS Teams video conference and is being recorded. The recording will be posted to the internet for public viewing. The Health Licensing Office asks that individuals attending through MS Teams keep your phone muted and cameras off during the entire meeting until you are given an opportunity to comment during the public and interested parties' feedback period if indicated on the agenda. Please do not use the chat feature during the meetings. I will now call roll. Megan Johns here, Brenda Lagarde. Brad Hendershot.
I'm here.
Corey Stump.
Here.
Samantha Parnham.
Here.
Marie McMahon.
Here.
Jennifer White.
Here.
Members, when you wish to speak, please state your last name for the record. Board members are asked to not use the chat feature during meetings. Public members attending in person wishing to speak must first sign in on the roster sheet available. For public members calling in on the public phone line or via MS Teams, please email April Fleming at april.fleming@oha.oregon.gov and provide your first and last name. Public and interested parties' feedback may be heard during the public and interested parties' feedback period if indicated on the agenda. Everyone is asked to use appropriate language, manners, and protocols when conducting board business. This meeting is now called to order.
Hi, good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. I heard you call Brenna Lagarde, but I don't know if she heard you. Brenna, can you hear us? Looks like she froze. Okay. Okay, we can move on. And Brenda, if you can hear us, you may have to log out and log back in. Sorry. Go ahead, Madam Chair.
Was I supposed to do something else?
So we called it to order. So we have items for board action, and the first item would be approval of the agenda. If we can get a motion to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Marie. And a second, please.
This is Corey Stump, I second.
And Chair, please call the vote, please. Or roll call, sorry.
Motion has been made. I'll call roll. Megan Johns. Hey. Brenna Lagarde.
Doesn't look like she's back yet.
Brad Hendershot.
Aye.
Corey Stump.
Aye.
Samantha Parnham.
Aye.
Marie McMahon.
Aye.
Jennifer White.
Aye.
Very good. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the 2024 meeting dates. And currently we have at 9 a.m. January 19th and July 12th at 9 a.m.
This is McMahon. I move to approve the meeting dates.
Okay, if we can get a second. Brenna, can you hear us? Okay, you're on mute. Anyway, we've done, sorry. Okay, so we have, we're doing a roll call of vote for the 2020.
Need a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we need a second on the 2024 meeting dates, but those dates, Brenna, are 9 a.m. January 19, 9 a.m. July 12.
Am I still on the BARB next year? Do I time out or term out?
Yeah, we'll go over that here shortly. But you're here
Appreciate
today.
knowing the date, but I'm not sure
Okay.
if that's good in the game. But they're fine with me anyway.
Okay. Okay, so do we have a second on the meeting dates, please?
I'll second.
Thank you. That was. And then a roll call. Chair, please.
Motion has been made. I'll call roll. Megan Johns, aye. Brenna Lagarde,
Aye.
Brad Hendershot,
Aye.
Corey Stump,
Aye.
Samantha Parnham,
Aye.
Marie McMahon,
Aye.
Jennifer White.
Aye.
Okay. The next item is chair and vice chair. And so Megan is in her second full term, and that expires 12/16/26. And kind of going a little bit out of order, but I'll cover this twice probably. And Brenna, her second full term ends October 31, 2023, cannot reappoint. So, chair, members of the board, we need a nomination for a chair, and Megan's going to be around long enough to do it for another year. If you choose to keep her, that's great. And a vice chair.
This is McMahon. I nominate Megan Johns for chair.
This is Hendershot. I second.
Okay. And do we have a nomination for a vice chair? So if I may, chair, members of the board, I will go down the list real quick. Corey is in their first term, and that expires October 31, 2023, and can reappoint. Samantha Parnham, same term expiration, first full term, and can reappoint. Jennifer White, first full term expires 2/13/24 and can reappoint. Marie McMahon is first full term, expires 10/31/23 and can reappoint. And Brad expires 10/31/24 and cannot reappoint as it's his second term.
Oh, this is Corey Stump. I nominate Brad for chair for the next year.
That would be vice chair.
Vice chair, I mean, I'm sorry.
Well, you can do either one, and then we'll have to do some voting. But
Oh, I third Megan for chair.
Okay.
She's there.
all right, we'll do a roll call. Is there a second for Brad to be vice chair?
This is
I
McMahon.
second.
I second.
Was that Marie? Marie
Yes.
McMahon. Yeah. Okay, Chair, you will need to do a roll call for voting to vote Megan Johns in as chair and Brad Hendershot as vice chair.
Do I call roll for both, or can I say
I can
both?
have somebody say so moved right now, and then you'll do a roll call.
So moved.
And that was
Brenna.
Well, yes, everybody, please say your name prior to actually speaking. Roll call, please.
But do I roll call each each position independently or both together?
We're doing this together. So
Okay.
just one roll call should suffice.
Perfect. A motion has been made. I'll call roll. Megan Johns, aye. Brenna Lagarde,
Aye.
Brad Hendershot,
Aye.
Corey Stump,
Aye.
Samantha Parnham,
Aye.
Marie McMahon,
Aye.
Jennifer White.
Aye.
Perfect. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda are reports. We'll start with the director's report. So, licenses issued for behavior analysts, in the last 4 quarters of, and that's fiscal year 2023, we've issued a total of 91. And assistant behavior analysts in the same fiscal year 2023, we've issued 13 licenses. Behavior analyst analysis interventionists, we have issued 771 in fiscal year 2023. Licenses renewed for behavior analysts for the fiscal year 2023, we've renewed 342, and by far the vast majority were online. And thank you to everybody. Oh, wow. Assistant behavior analysts, we've renewed 12, and everybody renewed online. Behavior analyst interventionists, we've renewed 580 in fiscal year 2023. And again, the vast majority have done it online. Thank you very much. Analysts by age and gender, it's a very young group, and but we have some that are in their late 50s still licensed. Assistant behavior analysts, same thing. And interventionists, we have some, it's a very young group, but we have some licensed into their mid-70s, early 80s. I am on slide 22, if y'all are following along. The licensing trends for behavior analysts is, it's growing slowly, but it is growing. We've at a 445 in between Q3 and Q4 of 2023. Assistants, behavior analysts were 25, static for the last couple of quarters. Interventionists, we had a pretty good decline, but we're on an upward trend in this last quarter at 1,388. On slide 25, this board is doing very well financially. Had a beginning balance of 712,223 and an ending balance of 738,191. So if you're looking at it, we've had a large expenditure for 2022 and 2023. I would imagine that that's probably case related. Any questions on those reports? Very good, thank you. Moving on, we have the regulatory report. Trampus, good morning.
Good morning. Hello, everyone. Hopefully you can see the regulatory report here. It has a couple of different sections. The first one is the cases open and closed and their status. So we have 3 biennium still left on this regulatory report. There's that one from that oldest biennium. There's one on there that's still kind of hanging on. I anticipate that actually moving off of there very soon. So that'll just leave us with the two newest. You can see that we kind of had a bump in complaints in the 2021 biennium, but for the last 2 years, the 2023 biennium that just finished, we only had eight come in, and so I'm not sure what that trend means, but it is kind of notable that we had 13 in 19 and 27 in the next biennium, and then dropped right down to 8. So that's an interesting trend. Well, interesting to see as that moves through, if that continues. Yeah, but that's of the 48 that came in over those 3 biennium, 20 of them are still open. So still dealing with that bump, I think, a little bit. So did anybody have any questions about this, or about regulatory in general, or how investigations work?
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you.
Next on the list is policy. I will turn it over to Anne.
Morning, everybody. In policy, we have a number of bills that affected HLO in general, but 2 that were very specific to your board. I attached them. Have you had time to read them? Okay. So of the 2, I can start with 2048. Now, what's interesting, not only did we have a mostly new legislature and a fairly chaotic session, we also have a new governor. And for reasons known only to her, she has not signed most of the bills that have gone to her desk, including the 2 that are before you now. She has 30 days after sine die to choose to sign or veto. Oregon, to my knowledge, does not have a pocket veto, which means it just sits on her desk and dies. If she chooses not to sign it, it still will become law. So on 2048, this is a bill that requires HLO to provide a provisional registration to interventionists if they send in a completed application and we can't get it to them in 5 days, we have to issue a provisional. Now, what's interesting about this is the reason we can't get a license out the door, registration out the door in 5 days, is because very often applications are not complete. We have had ongoing problems with supervisors sending in the wrong identification with the wrong application with a check that doesn't match. Fingerprints aren't done, no social security numbers, the wrong ID for the wrong application. Never mind, apply this check to that person. It's been extremely chaotic, and that's one of the reasons we haven't been able to get them out the door. Be that as it may, we're going to have to come up with a way, and we're still figuring out the mechanisms on this, that if we get a completed application and for whatever reason we can't get it out the door in 5 days, that we would then send this person a provisional registration, which would either expire when they are given a full registration or are denied for a registration. The interesting thing about this is that the operative date on this bill is October 1st of 2023. And that seems awfully short, but then when you look at how it's written, the office can't take any action until September 25th of 2023. So we have 6 days to get this on the road, and that's not going to happen. So if it is signed, we will get it going when we get it going. Any questions on that one? Okay, the other one is 2421, and along with a bunch of other stuff, it requires HLO to adopt rules establishing the professional methods and procedures for interventionists. Again, the timeline on it, this has to be operative January 1st of 2024, which seems like a lot of time for individuals, but not for us. So what I would like you guys to do, since you're such great resources, we don't have a lot of time to ponder this, muse it, have 15 racks, talk about things and that and stuff. we just really don't have that kind of time. Brenna's laughing. She knows what I'm talking about. So if you guys have any sort of, we can't just automatically refer to the BACB. They're very protective of their property, their intellectual properties. But if you have some kind of basic guidelines that you could send me on just some basic professional methods and procedures that you would think interventionists would have to follow, if you could get those to me as soon as possible, that would be extremely helpful as we try to craft something that we can slam into a rack and do rulemaking and all that and have this thing up and running in the legislative drag race operative date of January 1st. So if that's something you could do, that would be great. Any questions? Everybody still awake? Okay, well, if nobody has any questions about that, I will turn it back over. I mean, we can talk about next steps, but really what I need is a huge assist on that professional. If you can point me to a website, somebody who's not going to sue us for using their information, any kind of basic guidelines that we can then take to a rules advisory committee. When I decide to put a rack together, what I'll probably do is reach out. We might want to convene a short board meeting so you guys could give me some ideas of stakeholders, some groups, not individuals, but some groups that I can reach out to try to get a rules advisory committee together. Is that something you can do? Okay, I will find out what's going on with this, and based on the information that you get me and how quickly I can throw something together, we'll probably put a meeting together in the fall, a very, very quick one. If we have any cases, we could tie it together, but otherwise it would just be to talk about next steps with this rulemaking. Are we good?
So this is Brenna. Like, could we start with our existing BCBA ethical rules and then just kind of pull out the stuff that doesn't apply to the interventionists?
Well, the problem is the way that the statute is written, the original, well, it wasn't the original, it was 696, the one that has the board in its current form. It doesn't tie interventionists to the BACB. And so we could try. I'm a little leery because, as we mentioned, and we still have some legal advice brewing on this, the current ethical guidelines from the BACB, remember, we couldn't just adopt it because they've blended it up. It wasn't like the old one in 2016 where it was like, okay, sections 1 through 8 was be professional, don't take advantage of your clients, don't barter, that kind of thing. And then at the bottom, it was allegiance to the BACB and that kind of thing that we couldn't enforce. So we just adopted like sections 1 through 8. The current standards are all blended. I don't know if you recall our attorney talking to you about that. When you wanted to update the ethical standards, it's very difficult to extract the portions that we can enforce versus the portions that we can't, because it's extremely blended. So if you wanted to go back in time and look at an old version, we might be able to, but the current one, we're still trying to scrutinize what we can do with it.
Right. So is that, I was trying to remember where we ended up with that. So where did
you guys wanted to see the work at how our leadership and guidance over at the DOJ had redlined that document and how blended it was. And you had asked to see that, and that work is not done yet. I mean, some of it was done. And then we have right now, I think we have 4 attorneys working for us, and they're all back on their heels because we have so many cases and we have so many things. And so that's not quite done yet, trying to figure out the portions that are actionable and the portions that are theoretical and we can't do anything with. So that's still floating around out there. And that's what kind of makes this a little bit more complicated, is we have to bring this registration type into some sort of professional and methods and procedures world with not a lot of national source material to turn to.
Well, there isn't going to be anything better than that, right? I mean, like, it isn't going to make any sense to have an interventionist code that is divorced from the BACB code, because the BCBAs will be, essentially, working with the interventionist, right? So like they should use the same words to say the same things. There should just be like BCBA stuff that the interventionists don't have to do, right?
Well,
Depending on
it's a little scarier than that, Brenna, in that remember the registration is very specifically not tied to the BACB.
yeah, but as a practical matter, when these guys are out working with people, it isn't, it's going to be, I would think it would be a regulatory nightmare to have an ethical code that uses different terminology even to describe the same basic ethical requirements, right? Like, I think that's going to make Trampus's life unnecessarily difficult. So I hate to say it, but I kind of think the DOJ's got to finish with that analysis, and then we're going to have to do them both at once. Because otherwise, I think we're going to end up with a bit of a mess.
Okay. How does the rest of the board feel?
This is McMahon. I agree.
This is Jennifer White. I agree as well. So much is just tied to our national certification. I feel like that it really does need to be similar.
So if they redline the existing, mess, decide what we can enforce, what we can't enforce, right? And then that should, the output of that should be ethical rules, like updated ethical rules governing the BCBAs. And then, and again, you guys should, tell me if I'm wrong, right? You would know better than I, but like, I think chunks of that, which are BCBA, like analyst specific, can be removed. And then what's left from there could be the interventionist code.
Okay, I return to the fact that the BCBA had a real problem with interventionists that are not certified through them using any of their source material. That was a huge problem before. Brenna, you were not on the board at the time. We had chosen to, at the time, we had to come up with the 40 hours of training, and we had tried to use their task list. And the day we were going to vote on rules, they threatened litigation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't there for that rodeo, but I was there for the trademark infringement rodeo. When SB 365 was being negotiated, I hear the stress in your voice, and I'm really genuinely not trying to make it worse. But I mean, as a practical matter, right? Like the state of Oregon has sovereign immunity, so the BACB can kind of pound sand unless it's trademark infringement. If it's copyright, they can't do anything. I know that's a bit of an aggressive legal position, and I'm not here as a lawyer, but I think we got to do something that makes sense for the people we're serving. Okay. And the people we're serving are not the BACB.
Can we take the current RBT ethical guidelines and rewrite them so it's not verbatim, but we're still getting all of the same information in?
Well, and that's kind of what was done originally with the 40 hours of training in areas, domains. Mm-hmm. Is one of our board members at the time made a heroic effort to extract concepts and say, listen, we don't have to use the exact words, but here are some basic concepts on data collection, on, frequencies, that kind of thing. And she put that together whole cloth at speed. And for that, she will always have a plaque somewhere in my policy heart. So that is something, if there are some general concepts, just some very high level concepts, you don't barter, You don't take sexual advantage of your clients. You don't do these things. Just some basic things. That is certainly something that as a board you could consider.
Mm-hmm. I think at this point that might be the best option, just to be able to get something going. The RBT's ethics guidelines aren't extremely large compared to the BCBA's code of conduct. And I think if we got together for a single meeting, or one of us decided that we were going to try and type out and reword everything, we'd at least be able to get something going. What does everybody else feel?
This is Sam. Yeah, I think that is probably the best starting place. I'm trying to think, does like APBA have something similar? Like have they, or CASP, have they done anything that has like standards written down that's not the board? I can't remember. We can dig into it and see, but that could help.
Okay, well, if to make everybody satisfied, what I can do, Brenna, because I understand where you're going, right? You want common language, you want common vocabulary. What I can do, if it works for everybody, is I can reach out to our partners at the DOJ and say, this was a point of interest because you're all using the same language and it makes sense. Is there a way that the ethical code analysis can be finished and we can look at moving the new piece of the interventionists and the existing license types together simultaneously in the world of ethics? And while I'm doing that, if we could also, maybe one of you who's an expert could kind of explore what's out there, and if there's some broad concepts that we can have moving parallel with the DOJ piece. And if one drops off and the other one moves forward, at least we're covered. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me.
Okay.
This is Megan Johns, and I was also wondering, so part of ORABA has like a policy committee, and they'll sometimes work on writing things up. Is that something we could maybe also ask them to kind of help support of like looking through the RBT task and kind of like finding commonalities, or is that something the board has to do specifically?
Oh, no. If one of you as a member of ORABA, I mean, again, the hat you're wearing while you're here is your board member hat and you're here for public protection. But if there are resources, I mean, part of the reason we love our boards is you guys are built-in subject matter experts, right? Like you all have expertise in a certain area. If there is a paper or something that's available to you as a member or some sort of area of expertise, we really lean on our associations because they're the experts. And if there's some broad concepts that you can then forward and we have something to work with as opposed to nothing, that if the DOJ says, we're not going to get this done in time, or you guys are on such an accelerated timeline, because they don't like to hurry. That is one thing about the DOJ. They want to be right. They don't want to be fast. So
Don't we all?
Right? But unfortunately, the legislature seems to think that we all have a rabbit and a magic hat and a wand and we can just make things happen. So if you guys could kind of drum some resources up and come up with some broad concepts, and what would be perfect was if the DOJ says, well, here are some broad concepts and you guys have pretty similar things, then I now have something I can bring to Iraq. And that's fantastic. Now, once we have something in place and we can breathe a sigh of relief, we can then further refine if something comes to mind. But this is kind of and Brenna knows from 365 to 696, even laws have to adapt sometimes. They make their best shot and then we refine. So that's always something we can do later on. But when we look at, again, to the regular person, January seems like a mile away. For us, it was yesterday, as far as things move. So if we're comfortable with that, if you guys can use the resources you have, and I will reach out to our partners at the DOJ and we can do this together. And when I have something based on what you guys tell me, let's just say if you could get me something in the next month by the end of August or beginning of September, if that's a reasonable amount of time, if it's not, if you guys are finding it hard to get things, at least reach out and tell me what's going on so that I can, buy us some time. Let's figure out where we are at the end of August. And if we have something we can work with, we can throw a quick meeting together and talk about that, maybe get a case out of the way if Trampus is ready. And at least we can talk about where we are at the end of August, beginning of September, and that will determine our next steps. Are we all comfortable with that? Okay, I'm seeing a lot of head nodding. This is fantastic. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Brenna, for listening to my concerns. I just, I was here from the beginning, so I know where the potholes are, and I really don't want to hit them again if we can do that. So if we're all good with that, and honestly, maybe by then we'll have something to talk about with the provisional. The provisional registration is something that the board doesn't really have to have anything to do with. That's something that we have to do our mechanisms to make that happen. But if we have any updates on that, if we all get together to talk about this, I'm more than happy to tell you where HLO is with that as well. Now, if these get vetoed for some reason, then I'll send you an email and be like, we're done. But other than that, we'll kind of touch base at the end of August. Cool? Okay, thank you guys very, very much. I'm going to turn this back over to Bob.
Thanks, Ann. Hey, I just wanted to point out, with 2048, the provisional license, getting it moved, if we don't have a license issued or denied within 5 days, once we have a completed application, we get it out to the applicant 24 to 48 hours. It is on its way. So there's not much of a problem there. It's just how the new bill is wrote that's creating our big problem. All right, Madam Chair, the next item on the list is public and interested parties feedback. April, was there any public? Okay, so we do have public on. So if you could read your script for public and interested parties, if you have it.
Yeah, sorry, my computer is being really slow. So if I ever am slow to respond, it's because I can't find the button to unmute myself. So at this time, the Behavior Analysis Regulatory Board will hear public interested parties' feedback. Members of the public, please wait until you have been recognized. Once recognized, please state your name and affiliation to the board for the record.
Good morning, public. This is Bob Bothwell with the Health Licensing Office. I see there's some public parties online here. Is there anybody that would like to make a comment? If so, please unmute yourself and identify yourself and share with us what you have on your mind. Give them another second or two because they might have trouble unmuting themselves. Okay. Doesn't look like we have any public comment. Okay, other board business. Is there anything the board would like to bring up to HLO or things that you would like to discuss?
This is Hendershot. I don't know if this is exactly board business, but I've been following, I'm sure some of you are aware that the American Medical Association, that a student group has proposed, made a referendum to change wording to remove applied behavior analysis as recommended. Has anybody else been following this? I could forward it to Anne if the group is interested, but it's an interesting development given the influence of the American Medical Association. And some of the rationale language I found pretty concerning in setting up why they wanted to remove applied behavior analysis from the from the language, but I don't know if that's something that others have been following.
So
This
the
is
lang-
sorry.
Go ahead, Megan.
This is Megan Johns. I just was a part of an ORABA board meeting this morning, and we were talking about this as well. And there's actually a statement that's been issued by APBA as well about it, and how they're moving towards like it's not concerning yet because we're not really sure. So like they might be moving ABA and instead put evidence-based practice, which they're still recognizing ABA as an evidence-based practice. So it's maybe just not as like specific and more broad, but still including it. But there's still a lot of like not a lot of information out there to kind of like make an assessment yet whether how concerning it is.
Yeah, this is Hendershot. I'm sorry for bringing up something I can't describe with precision, but the resolution is structured around a series of whereas statements, whereas, and then leads to the proposed changes, which I agree that the proposed changes don't read as a broadside. However, the whereas statements I found very concerning. A number of, let's say, logical fallacies and argumentation that didn't occur to me to be being made in good faith what was occurring. So anyway, it just was, I thought, an interesting item of note.
And
that
Brad, where was
follow.
this out of?
This is the American
Amen.
Medical Association, and they have, I'm trying to remember the name of this kind of convocation that they bring together, and they take up a really vast number of items. And my understanding is help me out, Megan, there was a student group that proposed a referendum to change some of the language out of the AMA with regard to treatment or intervention for autistic individuals. The current language specifically mentions applied behavior analysis. There's some, and I understand that they took up they did take up the proposal, but it hasn't actually been approved yet. And so anyway, I was thinking about that yesterday as emails were flying back and forth.
Go ahead, Ann has.
I'm sorry, I wanted to slide in here really quickly. I don't know if it's related, but during some testimony on it was just really interesting during the legislative session. There was testimony around the provisional registration of interventionists, and Senator Gelser-Bluin said that her vote would be a no. She didn't want to see behavior analysis expanded because she said there were some concerns in the developmental disabilities community that ABA was abusive. And I don't know if it's somehow related, but the testimony was a little surprising to me. I mean, you can go back and listen to it if you want. I don't know if it's in any way connected or if there's something else rumbling around out there. I don't know, but I wanted to raise that to your attention.
This is
Well,
fine.
this is Hendershot. It's definitely, I mean, in terms of the broader conversation, it's all connected.
I see. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
The some of the, we're not, of course, we're not going to adjudicate that here, but the language being used, is rather incendiary. And no.
Well,
This is
Brad,
Farnham. I do a lot of work with the disability community around this specific concept. So it's definitely connected, and I think we'll probably see more of it, at least coming up in conversation in the next couple years, I would think. I do have some contacts that are sort of in that whole community that are really knowledgeable and do a lot of legal advocacy in different states that I'm happy to access if we need specific information or whatever that looks, whatever we need.
Saw a hand up and now it's gone. Marie, was that you? Did you have something?
Yes, this McMahon. I was just it was the American Medical Association's House of Delegates. Their June 2023 meetings. I quickly Googled and found an article I forwarded to April for reference. But I Googled it. So
And if Brad could send the one he had to Ann and myself, please.
Would they like me to send it to all of them, or do they?
And then Ann could send it to everybody if they want it.
This is Brad. Just to clarify, send it to Ann or send the information I'm aware of to the whole group?
To Ann.
To
To
Ann.
Ann. Let us
Thank you.
disseminate it so it's not a board meeting.
Understood.
Thank you.
and
Brad.
if I sent it to this McMahon, I sent it to April. So should I
Fine.
resend it to Ann?
No, you're
April's fine,
fine.
okay.
April's right here in the room with us and she already sent it to Ann. So
I'll
we
get
are
it out
on
to
it.
everybody today.
See how fast good news travels? Bad news, I mean. Okay. Oh. It's always busy. Okay, anything else for the good of the order? Madam Chair, any of the board members? Okay, Ann? Nope, all good. So, Madam Chair, you can read us out if you wish. Please, thank you.
The Behavior Analysis Regulatory Board meeting is adjourned at 9:50 a.m.
Excellent. Thank you very much.